Hey everybody, and welcome to part 30 of the Bible study series. 30. Man, we are getting through Genesis and we are nearing the end. And this is awesome. We are picking back up today with the story of Joseph, and it is going to start to sinking into this deeper stuff, man. It's so crazy. It's awesome just seeing how God is going to work. In the last video, the last part 29, we talked about, we took a little break, and then we talked about the story of Judah and Tamar. There's nothing insignificant about that. We're like, why is this brought up right here? And it's so important how we're seeing through the mess of all of that was happening, God still working in His will, for His will and His purpose, which is obviously in the future going to end up leading to Jesus. Amazing. Okay, so we took a little break in the story of Joseph. Today we're picking up with Joseph in that story. We're going to be going through chapters 39 and 40. If you remember, just a quick heads up, where we left off in this story is Joseph had just been sold off, to the Ishmaelite traders. They go to Egypt and he is sold as a slave to Potiphar, okay? Captain, Egyptian officer, captain of the guard of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And boom, here we go. We're gonna start into it, picking up with the story, and just watch how God is working through Joseph's life and just this whole interaction and everything. Oh man, it's crazy. All right. So as always, please remember to pray before diving into this. Just ask God to reveal Himself, Jesus, in this Word, and continue just to see Him, and you absolutely will. He will continue to do that. All right. So here we go. Part 30. We start off in chapter 39. All right. And it says, when Joseph was taken to Egypt by the Ishmaelite traders, he was purchased by Potiphar. We kind of did that recap. Egyptian officer, captain of the guard for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. All right. Quick note about Pharaoh, just to kind of set the stage. That Pharaoh was the general name, reading from the study Bible here. Pharaoh was the general name for all the kings of Egypt. Okay, so it's not like just this one particular that was his name. It's kind of like if you saw a few videos ago where we talked about, God. All right, the word God. That this is actually a title given to something or someone, or kind of a particular type of thing, right? It's not an actual name, it's a title, and this is kind of following along those same lines. All right, it says it was a title like king or president used to address the country's leaders. So that kind of sets the stage. We're going to see a lot of pharaohs all throughout the Bible as we continue going on. So that's kind of what it's talking about here. Going to be many different ones. All right. Verse 2 says, the Lord was with Joseph. So after being betrayed by his brothers, getting sold off into slavery and everything like that, he gets into Egypt with this Potiphar guy, and it says the Lord was with him. All right. And so he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the home of Potiphar, his Egyptian master. All right. And here's the thing. We've talked about this before. Watch what verse 3 says. Potiphar, he notices all of this. He noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything that he did. I love this. I always make a note about this. You should too. We've talked about this several times before. Okay, we see again, the note says, we see again where others see that the Lord is with someone, and in this case Joseph. So it's so evident to other people, to outsiders, this Egyptian, captain officer Potiphar, it is so evident that the Lord, like how Joseph is leading his life and how much the Lord is with him. He's just like, wow, like what in the world? It's undeniable. Okay, so Potiphar notices this, and watch what he's going to do. He is going to put Joseph in charge of his entire household. He's seeing how the Lord is with Joseph. He's blessing him, and he's like, let's put him in charge of more of my holdings and my household and everything, because with that we'll start to bless me. All right, so that's what he does. Okay, verse 4, it says, this pleased Potiphar, so he soon made Joseph his personal attendant, and this put him in charge of his entire household and everything he owned. Joseph is just sold into slavery. The Lord is with him so much, okay, that his master, his Egyptian master, just sees it. He notices, like, man, this kid's got it. All right, and he puts him in charge of his entire household and everything that he owned. All right, look at how God is working through this. So from the day Joseph was put in charge of Potiphar's household and property, the Lord began to bless Potiphar's household for Joseph's sake. All right, all of his household affairs ran smoothly. His crops and his livestock flourished. All right, and so it says in verse 6, so Potiphar gave Joseph complete administrative responsibility over everything he owned. Wow. With Joseph there, Potiphar didn't have to worry about a thing. All right, and I love this. We talk about, Lord being with Joseph and everything. It says, Potiphar made a note here, Potiphar's household prospers. Okay, and God does this for Joseph's sake. It's prosperity for the wicked. Okay, prosperity for the wicked for the sake of the godly. All right, we will see this a few other times. We've actually seen it before. Okay, so this is something where no matter what your situation, all right, the Lord being with you and those that are surrounding you, no matter the Lord He will bring about prosperity, as if it's this whole garden. He's watering the whole garden so that it can flourish everything around you and be beneficial, okay, for you. So everything's going great, right? Oh man, it's like this is turning into the right direction. Okay, Joseph is being blessed. In fact, everyone around Joseph is being blessed and everything. Oh, but man, oh how the shadow of wickedness. I wrote a note down here. How the shadow of wickedness tries to snuff out God's plan and cover up the light. Because here we go at the end of verse 6 here. It says, Joseph was very handsome. Maybe like me, I don't know. He was very handsome, I'm kidding. And a well-built young man. Okay, remember he's about 17, 18 years old. And Potiphar's wife, okay, we kind of get where this is going already. Potiphar's wife soon began to look at Joseph lustfully. And she would demand of him, come and sleep with me. But Joseph refused. Look, he said, my master trusts me with everything in his entire household. No one here has more authority than I do. He has held back nothing from me except for you, Potiphar's wife, because you are his wife. So how could I do such a wicked thing? It would be a great sin against God to do this. And wrote a note here. We, in the last part, in the last video, we started to see kind of the character of Judah. All right, this is giving us a deeper glimpse into the character of Joseph. Okay, we see Joseph's character here. He holds on to the wisdom of God. We're going to see where with every advance that Potiphar's wife makes, that Joseph is going to deny her. Okay, and I want you to kind of make a star, or underline, highlight that part. He says, how could I do such a wicked thing? It would be a great sin against God. Notice how he puts it, that it's a sin against God. It's not a sin against your husband or Potiphar. He is directing it that this would be a great sin against God. Joseph didn't say, I'd be hurting you, or I'd be sinning against Potiphar, as I just mentioned, or I'd be sinning against myself. He directed everything, okay, and making the focus that this would be a sin against God. And man, this is so good, so key. He's using such great wisdom at his young age. We have to keep this in the context of everything with what's going on. In verse 10, remember I said she keep every single advance. All right, she kept putting pressure on Joseph day after day. This is how sin works a lot of times. Okay, it's not just the once, all right, sin, you didn't get me, and it never comes back again. Nope, it's this constant just after him. Remember, we talked about, all the way back chapters ago, I believe in chapter 4 or 5, where the Lord was talking to Cain, and he's like, sin is crouching at the door, ready to take control of you. All right, this is sin right at that door, just waiting, just constantly getting after Joseph. But it says Joseph refused to sleep with her, and he kept out of her way as much as possible. And this is awesome because he continually flees. Okay, he's continually fleeing away from sin. He runs from it. Okay, but he also has such an awareness just to stay away from it. He is trying to dodge her and not even have this to where it comes up. And guys and gals, this is such a great lesson of wisdom when it comes to sin and its temptation, right, to try and lure us in. Just don't even go near where it's possible, that type of thing. He's being so wise here, using the wisdom of the Lord and everything. But man, sometimes it still finds a way in the most deceptive way. And check out what happens here. Verse 11. One day, however, no one else was around when he went in to do his work. So here she comes, Potiphar's wife, and she grabbed him by his cloak, demanding, come sleep with me. And Joseph tore himself away, but he left his cloak in her hand as she ran from the house. So when she saw this, she's got his cloak and everything. She called out to her servants. All of them came running. She said, look, my husband has brought this Hebrew slave here to make fools of us. He came in to my room to rape me. But I screamed, and when he heard me scream, he ran outside and got away. But look, he left his cloak behind with me. She kept the cloak with her until her husband came home. She told him the whole story, exactly as she told the servants. Whew, man, Potiphar furious in verse 19. Verse 20, so he took Joseph and throws him into prison, where the king's prisoners were held, and there he remained. So come on. This is tough. We, the life situations and everything, Joseph, we're seeing his character, his wisdom, his strength, in the Lord and everything, his positivity, how the blessings and everything is prospering around him. And it's like that sin, that wickedness trying to lash out and latch on to him in some sort of way. He denies it, and even still with the means of deception, it comes, and then to the point where it lands him in prison for something that he didn't do. And notice the timing of this. I made a note. The timing of this: Joseph was betrayed by his blood, by his brothers. He's a slave, okay, and he could have easily tried gaining more favor by going ahead and taking matters into his own hands. When we're talking about this temptation of Potiphar's wife and everything, this could have actually been an advantage to Joseph. This could have helped him, get even more, what have you, in some people's perspective, but not in his. Okay, he was staying true to the path, trusting in God. That's the key thing. Instead of trying to take matters into his own hands, which we've seen so many times before, guys and gals, we have, and it just ends up messy and crazy. He doesn't do that. He doesn't try to take that to gain more advantage, more privilege, whatever it may be. He just simply trusts in the Lord. It's like, okay, he trusts in the Lord. Here it still comes. It comes and it grabs him in the most deceitful way. She lies about this. He's accused of doing something that he did not do. He's completely turning and fleeing the other way. She's saying, nope, he came in and raped me. And she was just mad about the fact that she could not get him to do what she wanted him to do. So Potiphar throws him in jail. Alright? So basically, falsely accused, he's in prison. So God's plan is ruined, right? Nope. Verse 21, check this out. And I always love when it says this. I've said this before. My favorite word in the Bible, one of my favorite words is but. B-U-T. Okay? Because it seems like sometimes after, a lot of times after something negative, the next line is but God. So Joseph was thrown into prison, verse 21, but God, all right, but the Lord was with Joseph in the prison and showed him his faithful love. All right, this is awesome, guys. Watch. And the Lord made Joseph a favorite with the prison warden. So once he was a slave, he became favorite of Potiphar. Okay, Potiphar put him in charge of everything. Now he was thrown into prison by the wrong means. It wasn't him. Okay, it was a deceitful thing. He's thrown into prison, so he's a prisoner, and now he is a favorite with the prison warden. And before long, the warden put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners and over everything that happened in the prison. And the warden had no more worries because Joseph took care of everything. The Lord was with him and caused everything he did to succeed. Man, gosh. And guys, man, I hope you guys are seeing this story of Joseph, and the story of Joseph and the Lord is absolutely incredible. It doesn't matter what situation, what pit, what cistern. Remember, he was thrown into the cistern facing death. Nope. God triggers a different direction for that plan. Then he gets sold into slavery, right? And gets to Potiphar's house and everything, and Lord raises him up. All right, then the wickedness tries to come in and take place again, and God's like, nope, here we go, thrown into prison, and we're going to raise him up wherever he is. God is with him, and he's going to be raised up. This is awesome. Wrote a note that Joseph could have easily thrown in the towel. Man, I don't know if you've ever been accused of anything that you didn't do. It's one of the worst feelings. It's really tough. Like it's like a spiritual battle. That's a really, really tough thing. And considering the context of this and what he's already gone through, the whole timing of it all, you're like, man, Joseph's will and his strength, given by the Lord, and his trust is solid. I mean, this kid, again, he's 17, 18 years old. Man, he's way more, mature and advanced and spiritual than I was at that age. This is crazy. So he could have easily thrown in the towel. He was just wrongly accused, slandered, right, and persecuted, and then thrown into prison without cause. So imagine that. Doesn't that kind of sound familiar to another story of a person that we're going to meet? Jesus? Yeah, it does. Man, but watch this. Joseph's character and his attitude remains true. Okay, he could have when he was thrown into prison, he could have thrown in the towel, but he did not. He leaned on the Lord. Okay, and his attitude stayed positive and everything, and others still noticed that something unique is going on with this guy. So I'm just gonna put him in charge of stuff. He's got something going on. He's blessed. He's prospering. And we're gonna give him authority over things. And this was crazy. The warden had no more worries because Joseph took care of everything. The Lord was with him and caused everything he did to succeed. Man, are you serious, guys? It only gets better. Watch this. We're getting into chapter 40 now. Okay, it says sometime later, Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and chief baker offended their royal master. Pharaoh became angry with these two officials, and he put them in the prison where Joseph was. In the palace of the captain guard. They remained in prison for quite some time, and the captain of the guard assigned them to Joseph, who looked after them. It's lining up, man. Here we go. While they were in prison, the cupbearer and the baker each had a dream one night, and each dream had its own meaning. Quick time out. We already know about Joseph and dreams. He himself is a dreamer. He's had some very powerful dreams of a great magnitude that were very symbolic of just a great magnitude, something that's, coming, and his family's going to bow down and they're going to serve it, that type of thing. So we know he's a dreamer. These two men in the prison, Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker, each have a dream. Here we go. Watch what happens. When Joseph saw them the next morning, he noticed that they both looked upset. He's like, "Why do you look so worried?" He said, "We both had dreams last night, but no one can tell us what they mean." Look what Joseph said. He says, "Interpreting dreams is God's business. But go ahead and tell me your dreams." So I love that. He doesn't say, "I'm going to interpret your dreams for you." He puts all the attention to God. Okay, he says interpreting dreams is God's business. Go ahead and tell them, tell me your dreams. Let's see what we've got here. All right. I love the study Bible. It kind of follows up on that. It says, when the subject of dreams came up, Joseph focused everyone's attention on God rather than using the situation to make himself look good. He turned it into a powerful witness for the Lord. And man, this kid, he's 17 years old, and my goodness, this kid, man, he's on the right track, man. He's got it. God blesses Joseph with this gift of being able to interpret these dreams. So in verse 9, here comes dream 1. The chief cupbearer says, "Hey, I saw a grapevine in front of me. The vine had 3 branches that began to bud and blossom, and soon it produced clusters of ripe grapes. I was holding Pharaoh's wine cup in my hand, so I took a cluster of grapes and squeezed the juice into the cup. And then I placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand." Here comes Joseph's interpretation of this. The 3 branches represent 3 days. So within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift you up and restore you to your position as chief cupbearer. Look in verse 14, highlight this. And please remember me and do me a favor when these things go well for you. Mention me to Pharaoh so he might let me out of this place, for I was kidnapped from my homeland, the land of the Hebrews, and now I'm here in prison, but I did nothing to deserve it. So guys, this whole dream and everything says 3 days time, this is what's going to take place. You're going to be lifted up and restored. And hey, when these good things happen to you, when things go well for you, please remember me. Please remember me and do me a favor. Mention me to Pharaoh so he might let me out of this place. And I love in what verse 15 says. Notice how Joseph doesn't like completely complain. He just kind of just mildly claims his innocence. You know, he's like, I was kidnapped from my homeland, all right, and now I'm here in prison, but I didn't do anything to deserve it. You know, he's not throwing a fit and, oh, you've got to get me out of here, I don't belong here. He's like, look, just do me this favor, mention me to Pharaoh. I was kidnapped, I'm here in prison now, and I didn't do anything to deserve this. Man, this kid Joseph's awesome. So when the chief baker saw that Joseph had given, you know, the first dream such a positive interpretation, he's like, hey man, come on, do the same for me. I had a dream too. Here's what it was. In my dream, there were 3 baskets of white pastries stacked on my head. And the top basket contained all kinds of pastries for Pharaoh, but the birds came and ate them from the basket on my head. Joseph, here we go, he interprets. Said the 3 baskets also represent 3 days. 3 days from now, Pharaoh will lift you up and impale your body on a pole. And then the birds will come and peck away at your flesh. Man, Joseph, all right, he's saying Pharaoh will kill you. And notice that he just gives it just as God gave it to him. Whatever God said, interpreting this dream, Joseph just gives it as plain as day. There's no sugarcoating or anything like that. He doesn't hold anything back. What God says, he just says, here you go. All right, I love that. And there's good news for one, bad news for the other. Is this going to happen? Check out what happens. Verse 20. 3 days later, Pharaoh's birthday comes. And he prepared a banquet for all his officials and staff, and he summoned his chief cupbearer and his chief baker to join the other officials. In verse 21, he then restored the cupbearer to his former position so he could again hand Pharaoh his cup. But Pharaoh impaled the baker, just as Joseph had predicted when he interpreted his dreams. Everything that the Lord spoke, this gift of interpreting this dream for Joseph and telling this to the cupbearer and to the baker, it came true to the exact T. 3 days later, he said in 3 days time, 3 days later, boop, here we go, Pharaoh's birthday. One gets lifted up, and he was, the cupbearer was, the other, no, gets impaled by Pharaoh. All right, and so remember what Joseph so mildly, and kindly asked of the cupbearer to remember me. Please remember me and mention me to Pharaoh. It says in verse 23 at the end of this chapter here, Pharaoh's chief cupbearer, however, forgot all about Joseph, never giving him another thought. You're like, no, Man, are you serious? Again, we're in this, I'm saying we're in this story. Joseph is in this position, and man, it's just been, but God's been with him. Just every time he gets, kind of taken down a step, the Lord raises him up two more, and that type of thing. This was an opportunity, and even with this opportunity, Joseph doesn't bring the focus on himself, but he takes the focus and puts it to God, saying that this is God's business, interpreting dreams and everything, and he does so, right, knowing that one's going to be favorable, and to the one that's favorable for the cupbearer, he's like, remember me, right, when things go well for you, remember me, mention me to Pharaoh. I'm here, and I shouldn't be here. I don't deserve it. I did nothing. All right, and this guy who just got raised up and restored, the cupbearer, forgets all about Joseph. It says, never giving him another thought. And man, oh my gosh. And we're going to find out in the next chapter. We're not doing this in this part here. 2 whole years are going to go by from this moment right here, guys. And you bring that up because again, what we're going to see with Joseph's, his character, his attitude in these situations, and more so just his complete trust and faith in the Lord in the midst of such unfair and just awful situations, being deceived, the deception of, claiming that he had sinned and done a wicked thing against Potiphar's wife, then thrown into prison, and then, blessing, the cupbearer with a favorable interpretation of his dream and saying, just remember me, and he gets forgotten all about. It's like, gosh almighty. And the study Bible says Joseph's faith was deep, and he will be ready when the next chance comes. We will see that in the next part. Despite everything that's going on, he will remain spiritually ready, mentally ready, emotionally ready for the next opportunity that comes along. We will see that. It says, when we feel passed by, overlooked, or forgotten, we shouldn't be surprised that people are often ungrateful. Okay, it says, I wrote a note here, those shown such favor and restored by grace. Okay, this is key. This cupbearer shown such favor and restored by grace. Okay, this was an opportunity that, right, oh man, of grace, and an opportunity for Joseph to also be restored as well, but can often forget where it came from. Those shown favor, this cupbearer shown favor and restored by grace, can often forget where it came from. Just remember, Joseph said, this interpretation of your dream is God's business. This is coming from him. So it's not that this cupbearer is forgetting all about Joseph. This is key. It's that he's forgetting where this favorable interpretation, this grace, through this dream that was given by the Lord through Joseph. Okay, the cupbearer is just forgetting that this is coming from God. This is coming from the Lord. And whew, man, how that relates to Jesus in such a huge way, that those of us that have been shown so much favor and such grace and love by the gift of the blood of Christ, his blood, his life, his flesh, and everything that he has done for us and will continue to do for us, how quickly and easily we just forget that. We just start getting back into the routine of things, into our own situation. Oh, we're good now. Oh, I've been restored and lifted up. Life is going back the way that it should. And we're just going to get back into that same pattern, routine, and just sometimes not give give the source of all that another thought. And when I tell you, we get into chapter 41. 41 is a long chapter. The next part, the next video, we're just going to stick with chapter 41. It's a big one, and you're thinking again, man, Joseph, this dude cannot catch a break. What's going on? God's plan isn't working out, and just wait. Okay, watch. We know how patient the Lord is and how he continues to work even when other people don't necessarily hold up their ends of the bargain, so to speak, and whatnot. No matter what the situation, God, and watch how this happens in the context of this whole story. It is crazy. So we will get into that, chapter 41, where 2 years are going to have passed, and with Joseph and Pharaoh, and what happens is absolutely incredible, absolutely divine, and orchestrated by God. It's awesome. The story of Joseph is absolutely insane. Love you guys. Get prepared for the next one. Here we go.